The New York Giants made a quarterback change, but is it enough for head coach Brian Daboll to get off of the hot seat? We'll talk about that. Plus, we'll also hear from New York Giants defensive lineman Dexter Lawrence. That's coming your way next on the Locked On Giants podcast.
You are Locked On Giants, your daily New York Giants podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, New York Giant fans, and welcome to another edition of the Locked On Giants podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast family, your team every day. I'm your host, Patricia Traina, credential member of the New York Giants media for Locked On, as well as for New York Giants on SI, which is where you can find my written work, as well as the written work of my team members over there on New York Giants on SI. And as always, welcome on in to my Blue Crew community members, my everydayers, my newcomers, and everybody in between. Thank you so much for spending part of your day with us here on the Locked On Giants podcast. And today's Locked On Giants podcast is brought to you by Prize Picks, the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. Go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnNFL and use the promo code LockedOnNFL in all lowercase to win $50 instantly when you play $5. You don't even need to win to receive your $50 bonus. Prize Picks. Run your game. All right, on today's Locked On Giants podcast, just how hot is Brian Daboll's seat? We'll take a look at that and try and kind of hedge what needs to happen for him to stay versus if it doesn't happen, does it necessarily mean that that's the end of his, tenure here? Then in segment 2, the team made a quarterback change, which we all knew was coming. But is that the only problem this team has? I say it's not, and I'll talk about some of the other problems that now that they have removed probably the biggest one, these other problems are still very much looming large for this team having any chance of, winning some games moving forward. Finally, at the end of the segment, or the end of the show, I should say, we will hear from Sexy Dexy himself. Dexter Lawrence joined me earlier today. He was out doing a charity appearance with the New Jersey Food Bank out in Hillsdale for Chunky Soup, Campbell's Chunky Soup, excuse me. And he took a few minutes to talk to me about the state of the Giants, obviously the quarterback switch, the run defense, the mood of the locker room, and of course, his work with the New Jersey Food Bank. So that will be at the end of the show. Hope you'll stick around for that. Sexy Dexy, as he likes to be called, is always a good interview. All right, let's talk about Brian Daboll. Now, there have been some reports coming out that the seat under head coach Brian Daboll is starting to really heat up. Giants 2-10. Obviously they made the quarterback switch. They're going to go with Tommy DeVito moving forward for these last 7 games. But that is not necessarily, that was not necessarily the water needed to cool down the flames that are starting to simmer under Brian Daboll's seat. So is he in jeopardy of losing his job? Now, I have always said that it would have to take an absolute meltdown for Brian Daboll to lose his job. And by a meltdown, I'm talking about like what we saw with Ben McAdoo losing the locker room. I'm talking about what we saw with Joe Judge. Folks, even though John Merrick, the co-owner, has said that he doesn't anticipate making any changes at the GM spot or the head coaching spot, I'm not so sure that means Daboll is safe. I do think Joe Shane's seat is a little cooler, if you will. I think he's on more solid ground than Daboll. Here's the thing. He's got to win some of these last 7 games. If the Giants don't win another game this season, it's going to be really, really hard to justify bringing Daboll back because this team is going backwards. All right. Last year they had the injury excuse, 3 different quarterbacks, 5 different kickers, the offensive line combinations that they had, which weren't very good. They had that as an excuse. This year, really, not as many excuses. I mean, yeah, they've had different kickers because of injuries, but they've got Gano back, they got Jamie Gillen back. The quarterback situation that just wasn't working out. And I think, if you look at the biggest failures of Brian Daboll, you got to look at the quarterback thing because look, here's the thing. Daniel Jones, we all knew what his flaws were. The Giants were hoping that Daboll, who had worked with Josh Allen up in Buffalo and turned him into an elite passer, that Daboll would be able to work his magic. Now, to be fair to Daboll, if a guy just doesn't have it, it doesn't matter what kind of history you have. Um, the point being is that you've got to have something to work with. And in Jones, the same problems that he had in college, they followed him to the pros, and no matter who the coaching staff was or the quarterback's coach was, they just couldn't knock them out of him, unfortunately. So now you have Daboll trying to keep a hold on the locker room. Now, spoiler alert, when I spoke with Dexter Lawrence, I asked him about the mood of the locker room. And, he basically said the mood was positive. It was upbeat. Guys were upbeat. Folks, I haven't been in the locker room yet this week. As I record this, I'm going to be in the locker room on Wednesday. I'll tell you what I see as far as the mood. But look, the losing's getting to guys. I know that for a fact. I've had guys, in the past talk to me off the record about the losing and how it's starting to wear on them, how it's, taking some of the luster off the shine of the star. Daboll needs to win games, bottom line. Right? If the team goes 0-7 these last, 7 games, I do think the Giants will have to make a change. I don't want to see them make a change. I think Daboll, give him an opportunity to bring in his own quarterback and shape the quarterback that he wants. But here's the problem that you have when you make this decision. If you're basically saying to him, okay, you know what? We'll give you another year. You go out, you pick the quarterback you want, you groom him, but you got to start winning. Now, a rookie quarterback, if it's a rookie quarterback, you can win with a rookie quarterback. We see it down in Washington, right? They're winning there. But if the Giants get it wrong, now all of a sudden, if Daboll is not back, now the next coach is inheriting the quarterback that Daboll picked. And you just stay stuck in this cycle. So, I've said this before with regards to the head coach and also with the general manager that you just, if you're going to start over, just start over with everybody. But again, I don't think the Giants are going to go that route. So, bottom line, do I think Daboll gets another shot? I do. I do think he's going to be back next year. He could probably point to, the play of the quarterback. He can point to, other things. I realize that's making excuses, but they are what they are. But it's going to be a slippery slope. And, there's another element here that we don't really talk about. And that is we know what John Mara thinks, but we don't know what Steve Tisch thinks. And there have been instances where John Mara has thought one thing, Steve Tisch has thought another, and the Giants ended up doing what Steve Tisch was in favor of doing. So that is the wild card. That is why, I don't think we could sit here and say that Brian Daboll is an automatic lock to return next year. But look, I think Daboll is a good coach. I think he's learning. I'd like to see him do a few things differently next year. I've talked about the training camp practices and the preseason philosophy. Upon further review, seeing him as the play caller, I'm not sure that's the best idea moving forward. But you know what? We'll see if he gets another opportunity. I think he will, barring, a complete meltdown like what Joe Judge had or what Ben McAdoo had. All right, coming up next, the Giants had more problems other than the quarterback. We'll talk about what they are and how they could potentially hurt this team right after this. Hey, Giant fans, Prize Picks is the best place to get real money sports action. With over 10 million members and billions of dollars in awarded winnings, Prize Picks has made daily fantasy sports accessible to all. You just pick more or less on at least two players for a shot to win up to 100 times your cash. Run your game all season long on Prize Picks. It's easy to win real money this football season. Which players are going off, which ones aren't. Make your picks in less than 60 seconds and turn your sports opinions into real money all season long. And be sure to check out Prize Picks weekly promotions that can lead to big payouts, like Taco Tuesday, when every Tuesday Prize Picks discounts select player projections up to 25% to give you even more value for your lineups. Sign up today and get $50 instantly when you play $5. You don't even need to win to receive the $50 bonus. It's guaranteed. So what are you waiting for? Download the app. Use the promo code LOCKEDONNFL, written in all lowercase letters, and get your $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code LOCKEDONNFL to get $50 instantly after you play your first lineup. Prize Picks. Run your game. Hey, Giant fans, pre-alcohol probiotic drink by Zbiotics is the world's first genetically engineered probiotic invented by PhD scientists to tackle rough mornings after drinking. When you drink, alcohol gets converted into a toxic byproduct in the gut, and it's this byproduct, not dehydration, that's to blame for your rough next day. Pre-alcohol produces an enzyme to break this byproduct down. Just remember to make the pre-alcohol probiotic drink your first drink of the night. Drink responsibly and pace yourself, then get a good night's sleep to feel your best in the morning. Go to zbiotics.com/lockedonnfl to learn more and get 15% off your first order when you use the promo code LOCKEDONNFL. Zbiotics is backed with a 100% money back guarantee. So if you're unsatisfied for any reason, they'll refund your money, no questions asked. Remember to head to that website. That's zbiotics.com/lockedonnfl. That's spelled zbiotics.com/lockedonnfl. And don't forget that promo code is lockedonnfl at checkout for 15% off your order. All right, Giant fans, welcome back to the Locked On Giants podcast. I'm your host, Patricia Traina. And coming up on today's show, we're going to hear from Dexter Lawrence in the next segment. Tomorrow on the Locked On Giants podcast, it's Crossover Thursday. James Yarko, host of Locked On Bucks, and I will break down this weekend's Week 12 game between the New York Giants and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Specifically, what challenges Tommy DeVito now brings in terms of the preparation and how the Bucs might approach the Giants offense. So that's coming up. Right now, I want to talk to you about the remaining problems on the Giants. Now, everybody was screaming, bench Daniel Jones, get rid of Daniel Jones. He's the problem. Get rid of him. Everything will be right with the Giants in their world. Folks, Daniel Jones was only one part of the problem. All right. There are other things that really need to change. And these are things that I went back and I researched that have been lingering problems, not just this season, but under Brian Daboll. The first one, you know where I'm going with this because I asked him about it in the next segment. The Giants' run defense. It has been horrendous. All right. Dexter Lawrence is one of the best interior defensive linemen in the NFL, if not the best right now. And really, it's Dexter and everybody else. And the Giants' run defense right now ranked 29th. They're giving up 147.1 yards per game on the ground. They are giving up 5.27 yards, which is dead last. That's per carry. All right. The problems are many. You've got poor run fits. You've got guys that are getting caught up in the wash. You've got guys who are missing tackles, guys who are not filling gaps, all kinds of issues there. And for whatever the reason, the Giants can't seem to fix this problem. Now, I went back and I looked to see when was the last time the Giants had a top 10 run defense. You'd have to go back to 2020 when they were ranked 10th. Allowing 111.4 yards per game and 8th in terms of average rushing yards per play. They allowed 4.13. So under Brian Daboll, the Giants have ranked 27th, 29th, and 29th in average yards per game, and 31st, 31st, and 32nd. This has been an ongoing problem. You stop the run, you keep, you force the opponent into second and long and third and long. Now you've got a little bit better chance of getting off the field. But if you keep giving opponents, second and short, third and short, they're going to jam it down your throat every time. And you know what? I don't know if you've noticed or not, but I've noticed more and more opponents are going for it on fourth down against the Giants defense because they know that right now they can't stop the run game. And that is a big problem. So, we look at the quarterback on offense, that's a problem. The defense is not blameless here. And that's where we start is with that run game. Now, speaking of the defense, turnovers has been an issue. The Giants are currently at -6 in the turnover ratio. They've got 7 fumble recoveries, 1 interception. I'd like to think this is an exception rather than the rule, because in 2023, the Giants were +12 with 13 fumble recoveries, 18 interceptions. In 2022, they were +3 with 13 fumbles and 6 interceptions. Now, the glaring stat here is the number of interceptions, just 1. Is that because the defensive backfield is so young? Maybe. That could be it. I mean, you would like to think that because they're getting pressure up front, and this is the best the pass rush has looked in the 3 years of Brian Daboll's regime, you would think that the pass rush would force quarterbacks to get rid of the ball quicker and, give the defensive backs more of an opportunity. And that's just not happening. Why is that not happening? Again, it could go back to the fact that the Giants don't really force a whole lot of second and longs and third and longs. So that's certainly an opportunity, a reason why you can make that argument. You could also say that maybe the Giants aren't being targeted as much as they've been in the past. So that's why, going back to that run defense, it is so important to get that fixed. And why they can't, I just never know. All right, I'll give you one more stat, and this is a pet peeve of mine, and it's not one that we talk about enough, and that's the play of special teams, and in particular, the return game. Special teams, I have to laugh when people say, oh, big deal, they cut Nick McLeod, special teamer, backup cornerback. He was one of their better special teams players, folks. And, not for nothing, but the Giants' punt return game is averaging 6 yards per return. That's dead last in the league. The kickoff return unit, 25.4 yards per return. That's 23rd. Folks, the Giants are not flipping the field, and that is a problem. You've got to flip the field, especially when your offense is struggling to score. Especially, if your defense, you want to set it up so that the defense doesn't have a shorter field to defend. It's not happening with this special teams group. And I don't know if it's personnel. I don't know if it's scheme. I don't know if it's execution. I suspect it's a combination of all 3, but it is a problem. And it's one of the things that is holding this team back. So in conclusion, folks, you have taken care of the quarterback situation, presumably. All right. And it remains to be seen if putting Tommy DeVito in there is going to solve that problem. But the quarterback situation in itself is not the lone problem with this team. There are other flaws that have not been addressed. And at this point, the cavalry isn't coming in. They're not going to, bring in new talent at this point in the season to fix this issue. But this has got to be a priority moving forward for this team in the offseason. All right. The quarterback, there's a lot of holes still on this team, which, after 3 years, you just shake your head because you would have liked to have thought that the Giants would have been a little further built up at this point than they are. And they're not. And it's unfortunate because the rebuild continues. You figure next year they'll have a new quarterback. Maybe they'll have a new coach. Maybe. Will they have maybe new position coaches? That's a possibility, certainly. Um, it's a cycle that just seems to have no end. So hopefully, the Giants get it right because, like you, I'm tired of having losing season after losing season, having to talk about the draft when I should be talking about playoff possibilities and what the Giants are doing right. All right, coming up next, we've got Sexy Dexy. Don't go anywhere. Hey, Giant fans, time is our most precious commodity, so don't waste it scrolling through the same mind numbing content for hours and hours. How can you spend it wisely to improve yourself? Our sponsor, Hillsdale College, is offering more than 40 free, that's right, free online courses, including literature, mathematics, fine arts, history, economics, and so much more. There's no better way to expand your knowledge and challenge your mind than to open it to learning something new from Hillsdale College's vast catalog of online courses. Enroll today for free at hillsdale.edu/lockedon. There's no cost and it's easy to get started. That's hillsdale.edu/lockedon to register for absolutely free. All right, Giant fans, welcome back to the Locked On Giants podcast. And in this segment, I'm going to play for you my interview with New York Giants interior defensive lineman and defensive co-captain Dexter Lawrence. He was on hand on Tuesday at Hillsdale, New Jersey, doing a promotion with Campbell's Chunky Soup for the New Jersey Food Bank, basically packing up cans of chunky soup and other non-perishable items to be distributed to those in need during this upcoming Thanksgiving season. So Dexter and I, they only gave me about 10 minutes or so with Dexter. So we talked a little bit about the team. Obviously, I asked about the quarterback situation, the mood of the locker room, the run defense, and a few other things. And then we had to talk a little bit about the promotion. So all that is coming up right now. All right, I'm pleased to be joined by New York Giants interior defensive lineman, Sexy Dexy. Dexter Lawrence joins us. He is here to talk a little bit about the Giants, as well about his participation in the Campbell's Chunky Soup campaign, Feeding the Hunger. Dexter, thank you so much for a few minutes of your day. I appreciate it.
No, thank you. Thank you.
Dex, let's start off. You guys had the bye week last week. You're back to work. The season hasn't gone as you guys had hoped it would be. What is the overall mood right now? And how do you, as one of the leaders in that locker room, just kind of keep guys from, falling into despair, if you will?
I think the mood is good, honestly. Honestly, not good that we losing, but good as in we still care about each other as people. We're not pointing fingers. We're not having any of that. We laughing together, playing cards, doing whatever, like still hanging out and, just being normal, even though the record isn't where it's not supposed to be in our heads. So I think it's positive, strong, and I think that's kudos to some of the leaders on the team.
You speak about the leaders on the team. You are one of those leaders. What has been your message to some of the younger teammates you have who maybe aren't used to this type of adversity?
Just it's the NFL, and you see how I think this is an opportunity to show them how critical every little thing is, and how detailed you really have to be to win in this game. It's not just showing up and hoping your athletic skills help you make a play. I think the knowledge of the game is what has to be learned. In a lot of guys, and including myself, I still have a lot of knowledge to learn about this game. So I think it's positive. just not where we want the record to be.
Dex, just breaking off a little bit from the team, you came into the NFL at the same time as Daniel Jones, and of course, we got the news yesterday that Coach Daboll was going in a different direction with Daniel. Can you just talk about what he has brought to the team? His efforts. I know, unfortunately, it didn't work out for him, but can you just talk about the man and maybe the guy behind the scenes that a lot of people don't see and don't appreciate?
Like I said, he's my brother. So I feel for him, and you know, pray and hope that his next opportunity, which will happen, he runs with it and be as good as he can be, and and prove himself right. Uh, you know, but I'm a New York Giant right now, and for me, I think I I have to be, I guess, a little naive to trust the coaches and trust the process and not grow weary of that process that they have for us. And I do, and I have a lot of trust and respect of the ownership and the GM and the head coach. So for me, that's easy for me to do. But as my brother, I feel for him.
Next, before we get to Campbell's, I want to ask you about the run defense because I know that's something you do very well at, but yet the numbers just quite aren't there for the unit as a whole. When you guys went back and looked at it, I don't know how much self-study you as the players did, but what do you see as being the biggest issue, or and is it something that can be fixed at this point?
I think it's the little things. It's a little fit here, like you fit this A gap instead of that B gap, or run support. I think it's little things like that has to be corrected and seen. Like I said, it's the young team. It's the knowledge of the game that we have to grow on.
All right. Now, Dexter, you are teaming up with Campbell's Chunky Soup to fight
Mhm.
hunger. Can you just talk a little bit about that campaign and why you were attracted to that?
Um, well, initially I was attracted because as growing up, I always ate Campbell's soup, and so it was my favorite thing to eat. But as I learned more about the initiative behind it, is helping hunger, and you know how they partner with the NFL. Each sack is 1,000 meals, so so that kind of help motivate me a little more this year, to make it more just about myself, like not about myself. Help feed hunger, and my teammates are helping. We have 36 sacks, so that's 36,000 meals. So I think the initiative is what kind of initially it was because I loved Campbell's, but now I've grown more to love the initiative behind it. But
Mhm.
also everybody else can help by
Mm.
purchasing this beautiful shirt I have on, nice and soft. Yes, 20% of the proceeds also go to help hunger in America. So hey.
All right. And also, you have 9 sacks of those 30 some odd sacks of your teammate.
Mhm.
I mean, has there just been, what have you noticed people playing you differently? I mean, especially since you get so many double teams. I mean, that's quite a feat.
Yeah, like in the beginning of the season, the big thing is like, oh, you're getting a lot of double teams, and my mind was just growing through it, knowing it's going to happen. Don't complain about it. Just grow through it, and now we're here, sitting at 9, and with a lot of games left.
All right. Now, Dexter, you mentioned you grew up eating Campbell's Chunky Soup. I've got to ask you, what's your favorite?
I like the chili mac. I like the chili mac. Yeah,
What
chili
is it
mac.
about the chili? I've never had it. What's so?
It's like
What do you like
it's
about
like
it?
I don't know. It kind of throws you. It's like a throwback. Like when I eat it now, or it helps. Like it reminds me of a little warm, cozy, little heavy soup.
And do you eat it with a fork or a spoon?
A spoon.
Okay. Some people eat chunky soup with the fork. I know I eat soup with a fork, especially if there's a lot of good stuff in there. So, Dexter, thank you so much for the time. Thank you for all that you do for the Giants, for the community. It's been an absolute pleasure to watch you grow from being a rookie in 2019 to where you are
Hmm.
now.
Thank you.
All right. We'll see you this week.
I see you.
All right, Giant fans, that is my interview with Dexter Lawrence, Sexy Dexy. I hope you enjoyed it. And that's going to do it also for this edition of the Locked On Giants podcast. I want to thank you, as always, for tuning in. It is appreciated. And if you are watching on YouTube, please don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Click the little bell to be notified every time I post a new video. And like the video, it helps. If you're listening on our audio platforms, what also will help is a 5-star review. I will see you tomorrow, Giant fans, for Crossover Thursday. Have a good one.